Hello, and welcome back to the Science of Fallout series with Wasteland Entomology. So, today we're talking about the bloatflies, which are a really common pest, and you encounter them all across the wasteland in all kinds of places. So, there's two kind of fly species that are thought to be what the bloatflies kind of mutated from. Um, the To me, the second species we're going to talk about seems more likely, but it's also possible that there's some kind of hybridization going on. FEV may play a role, that kind of thing. But the main ones that we're looking at is we've got this one here, which is Musca domestica, which is a common housefly, and they are thought to have originated in Africa, but they have spread and are found pretty much everywhere in the world. Um, in terms of their reproduction, they mate once and can store the sperm for future use, which isn't that uncommon actually in some insect species, and even some other species, some mammals and things can do something similar. But they lay their eggs on sort of rotting organic matter, sort of food waste, carrion, which is a kind of polite term for dead things. Even kind of fecal matter sometimes can be a target, and these eggs hatch in about 24 hours into maggots, the small white kind of wiggly wormy things, which some of us might be familiar with. I certainly am, unfortunately. And they kind of stay in that stage for a couple of weeks before they pupate. They are a problem because they act as fomites. So fomite, again, this is a term people might be more aware of after the pandemic, the last few years. But fomite is a term for when infectious microbes, infectious pathogens are transmitted from one place to another via a item or a living thing. So you can transmit some things on your shoes and things. So these flies, they maybe land on something, pick up some bacteria or a virus, and then they go and land on your food. And so they can be prone to causing foodborne illnesses and things like that, and transmitting food poisoning by transmitting bacteria. And actually, found this out while I was researching for this video. They were used as a form of entomological warfare by Japan in World War Two against China. So there was two attacks in two different um, two different places in China. So Baoshan and Shandong. So Baoshan was 1942, Shandong was 1943. And what they did was they prepared a bomb that had the houseflies in one chamber and a slurry containing Vibrio cholerae, which is the bacteria that causes cholera. Um, and when these bombs were used, they ended up killing over 400,000 people by using flies laced with cholera bacteria, essentially, which is absolutely horrific. And I know that a lot of atrocities were committed during that period in World War Two. But cholera, as you may know, is a pretty unpleasant way to die. So these flies, they're used in science a lot. They're used to study all kinds of things, but they have also been used in warfare, which is pretty horrific. So this is one contender, and it could be that, I say, there is maybe some hybridizations happen for the bloatfly as we know it from the games to have developed. And the second species, which I think is the more likely candidate, is a family or genus of the Tabanidae genus. These are the biting horseflies. I say there's a few species under that head, and only the females actually are capable of biting land animals like horses and humans and other livestock. Um, these guys often get kind of lumped in to the heading of gadflies along with bot flies and blowflies. Both of these kinds of flies are really problematic with horses. You've got the equine botfly, which can be a problem, and blowfly, which can lead to blowfly strike, where an open wound or sore on the skin of an animal like a sheep You often see it in sheep, and you often see this in rabbits as well if their conditions aren't clean enough, and they get sores. And then basically the blowflies come in, lay their eggs, and the maggots then continue to cause damage to the skin and the tissue, and essentially eat the animal alive. And it is something to be very aware of in the summertime if you have pet rabbits, to make sure that they're clean. Because I have seen so many rabbits with blowfly strike, and very, very few of them survive it. It's horrific. So, but these guys often kind of get lumped in with them. And like those species, the Tabanus larvae are carnivorous. They tend to eat other insect larvae and things like that. Whereas the blowflies, often they lay their eggs on an animal, and then the larvae, the maggots, kind of hatch out and eat that. So really, really unpleasant. Um, but the females need a blood meal to be able to reproduce, which is something that we saw when we were talking about the mantises as well. That for the mantises, they seem to need to eat. That's why they eat the male, and there's some other species that are kind of like that as well. And these flies are known to be disease vectors too. One of the biggest issues with a lot of these insects is that they transmit diseases. So they're known to transmit the equine infectious anemia virus, which is a major disease in some parts of the world for horses, and they can also transmit trypanosoma, which is a protozoal blood parasite, one species of which is responsible for what's known as the African sleeping sickness, which is a real problem in the parts of Africa where this disease is endemic, and it can be deadly. It's very serious. So, um, a lot goes into trying to manage these flies and things, which isn't the easiest thing to do because they are so invasive, and the eggs hatch fairly quickly, so they can reproduce and maintain their population very, very easily, which makes them a challenge, especially because of the problems that they bring with carrying disease and things like that. And we see that reflected in the bloatflies in the game as well, is that, they literally fire their larvae at you. And they're often seen hanging about, sort of dead Brahmin, dead deer, sometimes dead people. You find them all across the wasteland, and I say they're particularly unpleasant. I'm not the most squeamish person. I say I've been a vet for 15 years. I've seen a lot, and dealt with a lot of kind of scenarios, but one thing that always just gives me the heebie-jeebies is maggots. I've seen some horrible situations with rabbits with fly strike, and literally had one rabbit just keel over, and die right in front of me, before we had a chance to start treatment for blowfly strike. And I'll never forget it. It was horrible, and it's. I mean, I guess that's part of the whole thing with Fallout. Is obviously highlighting the horrors of the post apocalyptic world. And I think that's why things like the bloatflies is particularly unpleasant to my mind, and kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies in a big way. But we're going to head over to the Wasteland. So we've got some records from the Enclave to look at, the bloatflies themselves. Bloatflies themselves to look at. We're also going to pay a wee visit to the Big Empty to meet the legendary bloatfly, and finishing up with another part of the wasteland where we can see the tiny flies that the developers have used in New Vegas, for, again, dead cattle. So a few things to kind of go over. So this one's going to be a wee bit longer than some of the others, and that's why it's taken me a wee while to put it together, because the bloatflies are kind of iconic, and I say the legendary bloatfly is absolutely earns that title as the stuff of legends. So let's head over to the Wasteland and see what we can find. Codsworth's just kind of chilling and trimming the dead hedges in the garden. So I'm going to leave him be because there are some bloatflies hanging around in a couple of houses, and because I've turned the AI combat off, it's going to give us a chance to get up close and personal with these disgusting creatures. I hear you. There we go. So say hello to the bloatfly. Right here and see if I can get a better view. So yep, you can see their legs and their compound eyes and their wings, and just how large and bloated they actually are. You see that? Yeah, abdomen. So bloatflies are another very common enemy. They are particularly disgusting in my mind because they do launch larvae at you, and there's some were thought to be potentially coming from either the common housefly Musca domestica or the biting horsefly, which is Tabanus species of flies. The enclave, I will I'll remember to put in a clip here of an enclave outpost where they've been studying the local wildlife, and they've classified them as the Tabanus species of biting horsefly. But they tend. Here we go. So bloatflies. So it does seem that the enclave have classified bloatflies as the Tabanus linnaeus species, which is the biting horsefly. Does kind of fit with the what we find in the game. They do seem to be fairly similar. So field observation suggests that the bloatfly is a mutation of the Tabanus horsefly with provocative advances. These evolutionary forebears possessed neither the significant body mass nor projectile sting of the bloatfly. Dissection has revealed that this stinger is engorged with living pupae and neurotoxins. These projectiles are capable of incapacitating large prey on which the bloatfly and its gestating young can freely feed. These neurotoxins are only nominally effective on humans, but can cause localised necrosis at the wound site. This observation is contrary to earlier assumptions that the bloatfly was primarily a scavenger. The bloatfly could be dispatched easily with light weapons, but nonetheless present a threat to field operatives, especially when encountered in numbers. They are hostile and can strike before the target is aware of its presence. So that's talking about the bloatflies and the fact that they can fire projectiles which contain larvae and neurotoxins. The toxins doesn't really affect humans very much, but can affect wound healing and things if you get injured, so pretty unpleasant. And it's enough for them to take down much bigger creatures than you would expect, so that they can feed. They will scavenge and feed on carrion on dead animals that they find, but this unique ability of firing the stinger with neurotoxin allows them to take down larger prey, and to actively hunt rather than just scavenging and eating leftovers like a lot of kind of fly species in the real world do. So yeah, unpleasant. They do like kind of swampy, humid, wet areas, which is unpleasant. But they tend to come in groups. You don't often find them on their own, as you can see. there's 3 hanging around in different rooms in this house. I mean, they're part of a whole set piece where you go around with Codsworth and rescue and look for Sean. Oh, chef hat, nice. But obviously I don't want to do that because Codsworth will attack them potentially, and we want to look at them. So I say they're very, very large compared to what they used to be, and they've got these big compound eyes, and there is almost a bit of kind of iridescence to their sort of carapace and things. But they can launch their larvae at you with a barb that contains a neurotoxin, and that's how they take down prey. The neurotoxin's only effective on smaller creatures, though it's not it's not really effective on humans and larger creatures like Yao-Guai and you know, some of the dogs and things like that. So and they can move quite fast. I mean, they're not really moving that fast just now because they're not agitated, but they're not quite as agile as their smaller counterparts, but they still can move around quite a bit, which can make hitting them quite difficult sometimes if they're aware of you. They have evolved a unique gland, and that's something if you go to the school in Diamond City, you get sent to go and find the bloatfly gland and bring it back. And it seems that they evolved this gland that helps them keep their balance and maintain their speed despite the size that they've grown to. Almost like, to my mind, it puts me in mind of a fish with, fish have swim bladder, which is a sort of organ inside them that they can alter. I think they alter the salinity, so the salt level in it, and that can change their buoyancy, and it helps them with their kind of buoyancy levels and things like that. It's really, really interesting, and it seems that bloatfly have evolved something along those lines to be able to maintain flight despite their size. And there is, I say, you find these guys absolutely everywhere, and you can see that pulse and abdomen. There probably is larvae in there. And again, you find them in groups, and in Fallout 4, because of the way they've redone the enemies, you do find there's the black bloatflies, the festering bloatflies, because they do get stronger variants as you level up in the game, which I think is really interesting. But these guys are here in the starting area, so again, that's one. Bloatflies are considered pests, and they are considered one of the kind of easier enemies alongside rad roaches, that, you know, they're just there for a wee bit of early combat experience, and potentially a source of food as well. Both rad roaches and bloatflies in this game can be cooked and eaten, which doesn't sound that appetising, but you know, it's post-apocalypse, so you're going to have to get your protein from somewhere, and it is something that insects might be a good source of protein, actually. They're already starting to manufacture pet foods with insect meat in it as well, which is interesting. But that's bloatflies. We will get to the particularly fascinating one, so we're going to leave the Commonwealth behind, and we're going to head west and pay a visit to Big Mountain, the Big Empty, and meet the legendary bloatfly, which is actually one of the most dangerous creatures in Fallout New Vegas, despite bloatflies generally being one of the weakest creatures. The legendary bloatfly is insane and terrifying and extremely deadly, so we are going to take a trip over to meet that thing, and we'll pick it up from there. Okay, we're near it. So yep, that's X42, the entrance there, so that's the kind of final boss end of the DLC. But very nearby we have the mysterious cave, so it's just tucked away right in here. So Let's go in and see what's going on. So yeah, find there's bloatflies. So none to worry about, all good, all safe. It's great. Right, that's the dead end. That's the dead end. Yep, just follow the path round. And eventually there is, so yep, legendary bloatfly right there. So it glows in the dark. I mean, look how, like, the amount of damage that you're doing to it is minuscule. It has so much health. It's actually the I think it has the most HP of anything in Fallout New Vegas. This is the absolute, has the highest health. It fires a plasma projectile that does a lot of damage, so even if you are max level, maxed out skills, the best armour, the best guns, this thing can still take you down really quite quickly. It also, when it dies, it becomes a pile of goo, so we're gonna like, even a critical just does so little to this thing. So yeah, just imagine this happening and it's actually fighting back. Messy business. But yeah, this is absolutely massive as well compared to the normal bloatflies, and it just has so much HP. So, there, go on. There we go. Yeah. So yep, big plasma explosion. So we're going to jump down, and this is what's left of the legendary bloatflies, this big pile of goo. So you have 52 pieces of bloatfly meat, if that's something that you really enjoy eating. But it also has like huge amounts of buff out, psycho and empty syringes on it, so you've got to assume that the reason that this thing is so huge and dangerous is because somebody has been feeding it lots and lots of chems to make it really, really tough. So it's quite a nasty surprise for anybody that happens to wander into this cave without knowing exactly what's waiting for them inside. I mean, compared to these guys, ugh, bloatflies, yeah, it's kind of insane. Yeah, I can't remember how you get out here now. Huh. But yeah, so that was the legendary bloatfly. So another wee sneaky surprise that is waiting for you in this mysterious cave. So you've got to assume that they called it that to get people to actually decide to wander into said mysterious cave, because they're like, oh, mystery, wonder what's in there, and then they suddenly get obliterated by a gigantic bloatfly. Really just ties in quite nicely with what you'd expect in Big Mountain.
Big Mountain, I, Dr. Mobius, will soon control you and all of science!
Of course you will, Mobius. Robo-scorpions. We're not going to count them. They're just basically robotic grad scorpions with pointy laser tails. So one little interesting fact about the bloatflies, it's taken me a while to find this, because apparently both Durham Dunssack Caravan and Casti Caravan, Sack Caravan, flies don't want to eat the Brahmin there, but they are here. So you can see this one location is the Griffin Weir's sacked caravan. So basically dotted around the map there's a few different caravans that have been attacked by the Van Graffs, and it's all part of Cass's sort of companion quest, that you go and check these out. So this one here is in the more kind of dangerous area, so we're kind of the northwest of Vegas, sort of North Vegas Square's there, west side is here, and then this is the road up into the mountains that takes you up to Jacobstown. So we're on this kind of main highway that leads out. Be aware coming to this area, you'll maybe see them buzzing about in the distance. There's a lot of Cazadors around here as well, but like with all these videos I've turned combat AI off, but I wanted to show, you only see this really in New Vegas, but if there's Brahmin corpses around, you can see these little tiny flies buzzing around, and I'll maybe try and slow the footage down so that you can see, but what they are actually is bloatflies. So they've taken the bloatfly asset, shrunk it down to be more normal fly sized, and then they have them kind of buzzing around the dead Brahmin here. So, but just kind of realistic to what these flies would do. You know, insects, flies, and things. They do love themselves a rotten corpse, which is gross, but it's just the way these things work. So in New Vegas, you can kind of see, they move quite fast, but you can kind of see that they are the bloatfly assets, but they've just made them really tiny and fly sized. Again, let's see, yeah, but I say I checked for Casty caravans and I checked the other one and they just wouldn't appear, and then I thought maybe it's I think my computer defaulted to lower graphics settings for this game for some reason, so I turned it all the way up, and but it seems to have worked here, so you can see them buzzing around these dead Brahmin. And oh, plasma rifle. Might as well pick that up, and some money and some meds. Might as well. But yeah, so that's one use for the bloatfly asset, that you get these teeny tiny ones. Also fun because obviously in this game you've got the legendary bloatfly over in Old World Blues, but we also have teeny tiny ones that you can sometimes find hanging around deceased cattle. So yeah, but yeah, this corner of the map is quite dangerous. There's Cazadors everywhere. I think you can even run into Deathclaws not too far from here. Yeah, there's a couple of different kind of farms and little shacks and things like that around as well. But yeah, so tiny bloatflies right there.